All right, hello World Wide Web, welcome to Hanging With. I'm GW Pomichter. Thanks for tuning in, thanks for logging on. If you haven't already, please go on down and hit subscribe for us. Maybe even go on down and hit donate for us so we can keep going to these fantastic events and interviewing some of the greatest artists, authors, and creators you've ever met. If this is your first time, thanks for hanging with us. We are here at the I Love Books multi-genre book signing sponsored by the Florida Writers Association in Orlando, Florida, and we are lucky enough to be hanging with Ken McClelland, the author of The Slave's Diary and the Pandemic Preparedness Guide. Pandemic Preparedness, that's ominous, man.
Yeah, well, when I started writing it, I was actually writing a historical fiction called, well, I haven't named it yet, but anyway, but it was about the 1918 pandemic.
Okay.
And I started hearing on the news about the bird flu and everything that kept making the news, swine flu, and I started looking into it. And I found out that the 1918 pandemic that killed 50 to 100 million people in a year's time, that is what's happening right now, or it could be the beginning of a precursor of that.
Okay.
So anyway, so I thought, well, I'm going to just research what's going on now and maybe add a few pages onto my historical novel in the back, say, hey, this is what's coming next. Well, that morphed into a 300-page book, and it became a book all of its own. Because
wow.
It's
wow. Now, the pandemic, there's a lot of research in a
Yes.
subject like this.
Yes, there is.
So, and you said it was really inspired by past pandemic.
Correct.
Have we learned anything?
Well, most recently,
Sometimes I wonder when I see the news. Have we learned anything? Are we doing any better as these things break out?
You know what? The only thing we've improved upon is some of our the PPE, the protective equipment that people wear, the personal protective equipment. We've advanced in that right there, and we learned better how to handle pandemics. But things have changed so much since 1918 with our mode of travel. I mean, you could beat it.
That's the scary part, isn't it? Is that
Correct.
It goes from an epidemic
Right.
to a
Very good.
pandemic very fast.
Right. And
In the modern world.
right. There's 4 stages that the UN decides. The UN and the World Health Organization decide what stage it's at. But we usually don't hear much about that.
Yeah.
And most recently in the United States, we had the Ebola scare
Yeah.
because we started bringing sick people in from Africa, and I didn't like the way they were doing it. I was kind of concerned about that because if you have an epidemic in a hospital, first thing you do is you isolate them from the rest of the populace. So I thought they would have done that when they're bringing all these Ebola infected people here, but instead they sent them to 3 or 4 different states.
Wow.
And which now you're sending them to hospitals where the people aren't trained for this level of virus. So I was really concerned about that. And it seems as if it's died out because you don't hear about it anymore.
Yeah.
But what most people don't realize is that in October of last year, there were 2 states that were looking to hire Ebola state coordinators.
Wow.
Now, wait a minute. The virus is supposedly gone. I mean, last summer, I think, was the last of it. But here in the fall...
Now, is that an example, though, a kind of a classic example of us always preparing for the last big thing instead of the next big thing? Or is that an indication that there's actually something still there?
I think that there's more going on that we're not being apprised about, because other states have also, they haven't been looking for state coordinators, but I've noticed hospitals looking for people experienced with Ebola. And even over in Africa, the Ebola virus has supposedly died down.
Wow. Well, let's take a look at Slave's Diary now. Where does this come from?
Okay, I just had an idea one day about
dark recesses of your mind.
I've come to the conclusion that people who like to write are usually pretty good at telling tales or lying. I got an early start when I was a kid. But this is about a young boy that's out hunting with his father in Africa back in the early 1800s. And while he's out there, they get kidnapped by slavers. Then he gets transported to a slave, a lot of research went into this. Gets transported to a slave port on the coast, and then him and his father are separated. They end up taking him out to this island called the island of Goree, where they've got a big trading post where the buyers will come and purchase the slaves. And he ends up getting brought over to Africa, or off the coast of Virginia, and he's sold to several different masters. And there was tragedy that happened, and where he got sold at auction because his master died. And it was a lot of fun to write, and it was interesting because I didn't even know where it was going.
Yeah.
Because it's all new to me. Most people don't know what a paddy roller is.
No.
A paddy roller is a bounty hunter that would go after escaped slaves, and when you get paid for bringing them back. So things like that, the terminology was really really different. A planter, you know, is a plantation owner.
Well, again, as you said, writers are people who are pretty good at a good tall tale.
Yeah.
Modern writing and modern fiction writing is a lot of research and a lot of learning and a lot of reading. This sounds amazing. Is this a fiction novel, or is this more of a guide?
That's a guide.
It's more of a guide.
It tells not only what about past pandemics, tells what makes something a pandemic, at what point it turns, goes to the next stage.
Yep.
But it also tells you what you need to be doing right now to prepare for it,
okay.
What the world's going to look like around us when it hits. And all the scientists, the virologists out there, they're all saying that it's coming, that it's going to happen.
Well, as the world's population gets bigger and more mobile, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to do the math.
Correct.
And this is a fiction novel.
Correct.
Historical fiction, really. It sounds
Yes.
like you've really hit the books.
Correct.
On this, okay. Well, we know the books are out there, and we're going to put the links for those books down here in the description so everybody can see where to go to find them. All right.
And I've got 3 children's books coming out too.
Really?
Yes. One
3
about
children's
stranger danger. It's done in a entertaining way where children hopefully get the message without being just taught like a school book.
You have a very dark mind, sir.
And the ABCs of African American Inventions. That's an ABC book.
Wow.
That's not just for children, because the parents that are reading the ABCs, teaching the ABCs to the child, the parents are picking up. That's what I've been told. They said, I've enjoyed this so much because I've learned so much information out of this.
Yeah.
And then lastly, there's a fairy tale that I wanted to write a fairy tale that hadn't been done before. And because so many of them seem like they're regurgitated themes, with just different characters. So this one here is a new thing. It's got the Jade Lion for the fairy tale, ABCs of African American Inventions, and another. No, somebody asked me about that. It will be set up.
Very prolific author. You got to make sure people know where to find all of your stuff.
Yes, and another chicken story. That's the Stranger Danger book.
Wow, that is fantastic. Well, we know where to find your books. We know what they're about. We want to know a little bit about Ken. So we're going to ask Ken some questions, try to get inside your head.
Okay.
We're going to drop you off on a desert island. You can take one person, anyone in the world, with you.
Oh, wow. I'd initially decided on Bear Grylls, but, I guess I'll have to go with Bear Grylls.
Oh,
no, I'd live longer if I took Bear Grylls with me.
There you go. We have some pressing issues of the day everybody wants to know about. A lot of people on the internet are pop culture phenomenon freaks, and they want to know where you stand on some pressing matters.
All right.
Batman and Superman have been battling in theaters for a month. Batman or Superman?
Superman, hands down.
Superman's your guy.
He could take him out from a half a mile away. Batman wouldn't stand a chance. I mean, you throw a school bus at somebody, how do you know that, you see something yellow coming at you? And then next thing
until it hits you, you're not sure what
That's right. You're getting hit with a short bus.
Well, next week, Cap versus Iron Man coming to theaters near you. Who's your guy, Cap or Iron Man?
I got to go with Captain America.
Going to go with Captain America. Yeah. That's an all-American guy right there. Superman, Captain America.
Well, Captain America's got the strength. With Iron Man, 1 EMP and he's done. Electromagnetic pulse, he's out of business.
Valid concern. This is from the guy who does pandemic books, guys. So y'all better know whose team to be on here. Now, all right, well, writers are readers. Writers love the history and the things that you're doing. You have historical fiction right there. Mm-hmm. So we're asking our folks, you get to take a ride in the TARDIS with the Doctor anywhere in history. Where do you want to go?
I think I would like to be there at the Sermon on the Mount. When Jesus was teaching everybody, to me that would be awesome to hear Jesus talk.
Wow.
And it just
set the bar kind of high.
Don't get me wrong, I'd miss toilet paper and all those neat things that we got today. But I mean, the wisdom that could gain from him.
There were an awful lot of people at the Mount, and not a porta potty to be found.
Good point. And I'm sure he could have multiplied them if they would have had the concept.
If they would have, yeah. So all right. Well, I was with you for a minute at Sermon on the Mount, and then I thought about the toilet paper problem, and I think I'm going to have to pass. Guys, that about wraps us up. We've been hanging with Ken McClelland, the author of The Slave's Diary and the Pandemic Preparedness Guide. Both of these great books. Check them out, and 3 more coming very soon. Keep an eye out. Check Amazon.com. Look down in the description for the links that you need. Thank you very much to all of our partners out there at Something Unique Magazine, Books, Chocolate, and Wine, the Florida Book News, Authors for Authors, Wordfire Press, our new friends at the Florida Writers Association. I'm GW Pomichter. We've been hanging with Ken McClelland.
McClelland.
I did that 400 times all wrong. So right now I'm here to tell you, YouTube, that's Ken McClelland, the author of Slave's Diary and Pandemic Preparedness Guide. Remember, subscribe, log on, tune in, see who we're hanging with next.